We're going to call the Select Board Sewer Commissioners meeting to order. This meeting will be held hybrid. This meeting is recorded by the I don't know why I'm having a hard time with this. This meeting will be recorded by the Town of West Boylston staff. This meeting will be held in person at the location. We also have a roll call. We are going to do a roll call because we do have a member virtually attending. David?
Here.
Christina, I am here. Jay?
Here.
Raj?
Yes.
Vanessa? Here. Okay. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, folks. All right, so this first 15 minutes is a period and an opportunity for the public to address any of their concerns and questions regarding town operations and programs to the board. Except in urgent circumstances, any matter presented for consideration by the board shall not be discussed in detail nor acted upon by the board in this meeting. A scheduled time in the future agenda may be set at the board's discretion. I will open the floor to anyone that has public comment. You can come forward, state your name and address for the record. All right, I will then open it up to anyone online. Going once, twice. All right, I'm gonna close public comment because no one
There's a comment.
had public. I know, I'm kind of like looking to see if anything pops up. All right, next item on our agenda, to review and vote to approve warrants for the period covering June 5th, 2025 through June 29, 2025, as listed in the agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Vanessa?
Yes.
Raj?
Yes.
Jay?
Yep.
I'm a yes. David?
Yes.
Okay. The next item on the agenda are the regular meeting minutes. These are a holdover from our last meeting, from 2 meetings ago. I believe everyone has reviewed them. I'm willing to take a motion to approve all of them at once unless anyone would like to motion to do individual meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as listed in the agenda.
Regular session meeting minutes?
Regular session minutes in the,
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Vanessa?
Yes.
Raj?
Yes.
Jay?
yes.
I'm a yes. David?
I'm abstaining since I was not present for this.
Okay. Next one, executive session meeting minutes for January 15th and February 5th, 2025. These are not for a release. These are a holdover from our last meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Raj?
Yes.
David?
Abstain. He's not present.
I'm yes, and Jay,
Yes.
sorry. Next item on the agenda is, do I have everyone here? Or do we have anyone from the joint meeting coming?
Mark is here.
Mark is here?
Mark is here online.
Zoom.
All right. So we have a joint meeting with the planning board to fill a vacancy. We would need the planning board to open their meeting if they are present.
Is anybody else present? I had it on the
I-
schedule for 7 because that's, I think, when Kevin could make it.
Okay, I can, if you want, I can hold. Do you want me to hold off for a little bit, Mark, until you can get the majority of your board to attend?
Is anybody else here? No.
I have Judy, Jan, I think it's Joe, and an iPhone that I can see. Unless anyone else in the room is on a planning board? No?
So we can hold off until somebody else shows up.
I recommend reaching out to them. We'll go to the next one because we're on a roll here. All right, so review and creation of policies. So over the last year, we are reviewing all the select board policies and have broken up across the board to make updates and changes. The ones on the agenda tonight are A1, role of the select board. It was sent out to the board for review. Does anyone have any questions? Did everyone get a chance to review it?
I've reviewed this.
You did review them? Everyone else? Okay, do I have a motion to amend the A1 role of the select board as presented?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Any further discussion, folks? Hearing none. Vanessa?
Yes.
Raj?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
I'm a yes. David?
Yes.
Okay, so the next one on the agenda is A2, role of a town administrator. Some of the edits, I'll just talk a little bit about, I should have done it last time, a little bit about the edits, removing selectmen, making it select board, some of the grammatical things. Just pulling, sorry. I have too many of these open. Some of the small revisions and just kind of a review. Did anyone else see anything as a big change in this one? It's A2, role of the town administrator, as. What did you do with the select board? I didn't understand that. Our job as what am I doing? Sorry. The select board for the last year has been reviewing policies and updating them because they haven't been updated, and some of them 10
Plus.
plus years, no one's reviewed them.
Quick question, what, is it, as far as the role of the select board, what changes did you make, if any?
So,
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be,
no, but I already answered it, so I kind of put myself down this path, now I gotta roll with it. Okay, so let me go through it. So the role of the town, the role of the town administrator, so the changes in the one that's presented in front of us right now was updating selectmen to select board, also replacing some of the policy text. The select board appoints a town administrator who serves as the town's chief administrative officer. The town administrator is responsible for day-to-day administration of general government operations as defined in the official job description. In addition, the town administrator responsibilities, the town administrator works under the general direction of the select board and provides support in the development and implementation of board policies. The town administrator is expected to maintain a strong collaborative working relationship with all members of the select board and must provide regular updates on key matters affecting the town, it's in different colors, affecting the town. To ensure stability and continued leadership, the select board is committed to maintaining a written employment agreement with the town administrator. This agreement outlines the roles, responsibilities, and conditions of employment in accordance with acceptable statute. So the town administrator has a special act here. They're also state governing legal bodies. So in this policy, the only change to this policy was the policy itself, some of the functions, but it was more of grammatical and taking out he, she, and making it gender neutral in our policy. And then just aligning some of it that it's under, employment agreements, and I think any responsibilities or conditions of the employment as permitted, that was stricken from the old one.
thank you.
You're welcome.
I didn't mean to be, I'm just asking.
You're good, I
mean, I know
it's summer.
it's a tough situation, but it's just like, when you put these in, and I know what you're trying to do, it'd just be nice to let us know, like, what changes you made so that we know what you're doing.
Going forward, I will make sure the select board member that has the policy reads out the changes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Question.
Go ahead.
Would we be able to do essentially a show of before and after? So that way, if folks in the room or on remote want to see instead of us reading potentially 2, 3, 4 pages worth of changes, either they're presented publicly for the approval, they could see the before and after, or we do a screen share to allow people.
I think we would have to screen share, and these are track changes, because they have to actually modify them, put them in, so I think we could try our next one.
So,
I'm saying yes, but I'm looking for you.
Couple of thoughts real quick, Jay, is just that our public notice does ask that if anybody would like to see copies or have access to them, that we can certainly provide them. Another option is that with our posting, with our meeting posting, and again, understanding that the posting document versus the agenda with the links and the documents is subject to change, not as frequently, but could change. We could add some of these items to our posting documents, so that's an option too. I don't know how the board feels about that, if that would be a policy or procedural, we can talk about it, but those are two options.
so to that point, though, there are a few that I've reviewed that are really just, swap out select board. There's a few that I've been looking at that we're working on that deal with finances or financial controls. They're really heavy in the weeds and really would need that side by side. So I think it kind of depends on the magnitude and the scope of
That's fair.
what edits are being made.
So why don't we take this as one to, take a look at maybe how, see if anyone requests in the future. These two were easier because it was more taking he out or she out, and updating kind of select board or,
No, I agree in this case, but
Yeah.
I'm just thinking more broadly, should we have members of the public wanting to understand what's getting changed, and they can see a before and after, instead of us
trying to read them all.
trying to read multiple pages of policy and procedure out loud. We can make it available for the, sure.
I think that's good.
When we do the screen sharing, can we do the track changes will be there?
Hmm?
Yeah, that should be
Well,
fine.
I've never actually screen shared, so before we assign me this, let me test out this, because we've tried with people here and it always seems to have some interesting fun fact. So I'll table this one, we'll go through these, and the next one we'll see how we can do it. We all probably could try it, so that way they can see for some of the heavier ones. Or they can request it ahead of time and we can give it them since it's in track changing. Okay. All right, so, all great discussion. Do I have a motion to approve A2 role of the town administrator with the changes as read?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Vanessa?
Yes.
Raj?
Yes,
Jay?
Yes.
I'm a yes. David?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna skip K-12 remote work policy unless, oh wait, I didn't have a link to it. Are you discussing that one?
I don't have anything.
Or-
It's actually not in the packet here.
I'm gonna jump to end of year budget transfer for fiscal year 2025. So. So do we want to go through any of this? It looks like there was, I mean, normally we would have someone kind of walk through this. I'm not used to walking through it. Is there anything that we want to call out here or discuss transfers that happen or?
The transfers, the first one for the town clerk's office is election salaries for the, just simply employees, higher volume for election this year due to the override. So we had more staff available to assist residents with the voting process. The next one is for the library. Again, salary and wages. This is a discussion that I've been having with the library director about how best to handle Saturdays. But it is,
I thought Saturdays were covered by,
They are covered, however, it only covers one
Individual?
person in the, no, it's specific to the children's room. There's only one person that is covered by the gift, and Saturdays can be quite raucous in the children's room, and so they are finding that a second person on duty is best for all.
okay. So this is, you're working on that, it
Yes,
looks like
yes,
amounts
yep, yep.
5,600.
Can I ask
that
a
right?
question
Yep,
on that
go ahead.
library?
Of
So
course.
is it the regular pay or overtime?
I'm sorry?
Saturday. Saturday is regular pay or overtime?
It is regular pay,
Thank you.
because they are not, these
You-
are not full-time equivalent employees,
Okay,
so it would
okay.
be hourly. Parks, due to the crazy spring that we had with maintaining the fields and getting the fields ready, and there were some over expenditures for fertilizer. They would apply fertilizer and it would be washed away the next day with a rainstorm. Some of the equipment broke down. We've narrowed the over budget amount to about $6,700. And so I have $10,000 here, which is more than what the actual budget number is. It was a work in progress. So I would request that you do vote the $10,000 to allow for any additional invoices that Carrie and Parks were not aware of as of yesterday afternoon, knowing that any money that is not expended in this line item rolls to free cash just as it would from its original line item. So we're not spending any additional money, we're just making sure that we can cover the invoices that we know could be coming in. Happy to delve into that a little bit more, but that's, and then the last few are Medicare and unemployment, and those are always best guesses at best at budgeting at the beginning of the fiscal year. So those are typical that we'll see every year.
All right. If there are no questions, I would take them.
I do have one question, just for me to understand.
Mm-hmm.
So in the parks, you said, there is a sewer enterprise account fund, as well as underneath a group health insurance premium. It says 10,000. And then it says that it is transferred to a park maintenance. So are we taking the money from group health insurance premium?
We are. So when we budget our group health insurance premium, we are always budgeting for possible changes in our current staff change of life. Sometimes a staff person might get married, they may expand their family, and so their health insurance needs may change. Also, if we hire somebody new that requires a different level of health insurance than the person they're replacing. So there's typically money in that line item that we have available at the end of the year that can cover some of these.
So do you think we may have more money and for the unexpected expenses in the group health insurance? So we are spending like a $40,000 now,
Right.
so we may have more money if something happened.
The reserve fund transfers that you have in front of you are not reserve fund. The end of year transfers are the high end.
Okay.
Once you approve this tonight, FY25 is
It's
done.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you. I
yeah,
got it. Okay,
these are the worst case scenarios.
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Vanessa, because you're on the screen, do you have any questions before I ask for a motion? No, okay. So do I have a motion to approve the end of year budget transfers?
I'll make
for
a
fiscal
motion to approve the end of the year budget transfers.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Vanessa?
Yes.
Raj?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
I'm a yes. David?
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to, I'm not sure if we have enough members. Creation of the School Building Committee. You're excited to come on up? I'm gonna invite him up, that or I can make it up. I've been there before too. Please just announce who you are for the public. I'm trying to get this.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dan Riley. I'm the superintendent of schools. Thank you for having me tonight.
You are welcome. All right,
I've had that title for 2 days.
Yes,
Congratulations.
day 2, everything's going great.
so this is on the agenda because you are requesting that the select board create a school building committee. And what was sent to us was, I'm guessing, what is required by the state of people that need to be on this committee.
Yes.
Do you want to speak to any of this? I'll just keep rambling on.
Oh, no, that's, I can give a little
3
description
seconds.
if you'd like.
Yeah, go ahead, if
Yeah,
that
sure.
would be great.
Yeah, so what we're proposing to the select board tonight is how we would like to create the school building committee for the town. And again, this is part of the Mass School Building Authority process, MSBA. And when we enter into a process with MSBA, if we do execute a new school building project, the MSBA will help us fund a portion of that project. So in order to continue with that process, we're in what's called Phase 1, our eligibility phase. And we have a school building committee that needs to be designed and approved by our select board. And so what we did was we went through and we created a designation for each member of that committee for you to review tonight. And in addition to that, that also includes participation from the select board through 2 positions. And they can be 2 positions that are carried by 2 different members of the select board, or they can be 2 positions that one member of the select board holds both for the school building committee.
If I read that right, because this was one I looked at, if we go down to 1 member, that leaves 4 voting members on the board, which I don't recommend. You'd be surprised how none of us agree sometimes, or you'll get 2 and 2, and then I know what will happen. You'll all come back to us to then vote on who wins that vote, and I would prefer that not to happen. I'm positive it's going to, actually. So I am thinking you should go 5 because it's a majority, and that way you never are in a deadlock.
Absolutely.
That would be I'm a human being, but I think 5 is better than 4 in these type of situations for voting.
Yeah, and if I could just quickly speak to
Yep.
that as well. With the voting members, you want to follow what the town's guidelines and bylaws are with respect to the creation of subcommittees and who can be a voting member of a subcommittee. If, for example, that's restricted to town residents and those who are registered to vote in town, then we could look at a 5th member of this committee in order to give us an odd number of votes as becoming a voting member. Or, in many districts, the superintendent also is a voting member of the board, but again, that's kind of dictated by our town bylaws.
So I went through a little bit of this. Typically, to be on a committee or board, you have to be a registered taxpayer in the town of West
Yes.
Boylston.
Yes.
I'm not sure, I know that one time someone said you also have to be a registered voter. I'm not sure, I couldn't find that anywhere, but I think that might sit in a policy. So the members of this need to be living
Yep.
in the town of West Boylston and also a registered voter. Is that?
Voting members. right?
Voting.
Yes, yep.
Your policy actually has 2 components to
Okay.
it. One is that, exactly as you just said, the second portion of that is that at the board's discretion, if the board feels that it is in the best interest of the town of West Boylston that a non-resident participate, you do have the discretion to make that allowance. But again, the phrase is in the best interest of the town of West Boylston. So that is your,
I would personally say, it's really good when you're a taxpayer because you will be inflicted pain. And if you're not in town, you would say, I want the Taj Mahal, right? Because you're not gonna burden any of that issues, residents, you're not gonna have to deal with that. I personally think you should be a taxpayer in the town. But I also am one member of this board and I'm happy to do whatever the board would think. So would the board, at this request, based on this outline here, do we want to go through reading all of these positions? How do you want to approach, you have 2 pages, I could read them off, but I don't.
That would be completely up to you, if that's how you'd like to handle it.
All right, so
I could read them as well, too, if you'd like.
I like that better.
Okay.
So, and this request would be creating the board as designated in this form and putting if they're a voting member or not based on what you've sent the select board.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All you.
Okay. So one member or at least one member of the school building committee needs to be MCPPO certified through the state, which requires multiple modules. And I believe that Mrs. Butler is probably about
I'm 2/3 of the way through the course.
2/3 through the way through the process,
Thank goodness.
As is Christie, I believe.
as is Christie as well, okay?
Okay.
So maybe 2/3 and 2/3 make a whole.
So Heather for MCPPO certified. So Heather's our first, I'm gonna say victim, okay?
Heather also,
Contributor.
if I could jump to number 3, and I won't jump around too much. Heather also serves as the administrator or manager for the purposes of this school building committee as well.
Okay.
And that's why in the name and title, I just tried to capture the specific appointments of folks in the town that hold positions. Okay, so we're gonna go to the second one, the local chief executive officer. This would be a position that's representative of our select board, and it's kind of designated as the town's CEO. In this case, it's more of a representative of the town's CEO board.
Okay, so that's a select board seat that will not be me. Just putting that out there for everyone to hear before we vote.
Is this 1 or 2? 1 or 2?
Well, we're gonna go to the next one.
This
Keep
is
going in
one
order.
right now, this is the first one, is to serve as the representative to the town's CEO board.
Oh, okay.
That would be one position from the select board. We're asking for 2 members of our school committee as voted on by our school committee, hopefully at their July meeting as well, if this gets approved tonight.
Okay,
The superintendent of schools would be part of the school building committee.
okay,
Local official responsible for building maintenance. So we're looking at our director of facilities as the person to potentially fill this role on the school building committee.
which one, our Chuck, or
Chuck,
you, okay, right?
Yep, that's
Okay.
what we, the director of facilities for the school department is fairly new to the role, so I think
Okay.
if we can have someone that has some legacy in the town and understands these types of construction projects for the town, that would benefit the project.
Okay,
Representative of office authorized by law to construct school buildings. This would also be a member of the select board as the official board that is by lawfully allowed to construct buildings in town.
okay,
The school principal for the designated school that is being proposed to be built. One thing I also want to mention is that MSBA expects that roles might change as this goes on. So as we get deeper into this list, you might ask about some of the roles and what if there's turnover or change, like with community members. MSBA expects that to happen. It's just the initial design of the school building committee that we're putting forth to them by August 1.
got it,
member knowledgeable in education, mission, and function of facility. And so we're asking for our school committee to discuss and select that person as well.
Okay. Is it gonna be a member of their board? I'm just thinking how I'm gonna read this.
It could be a member of the school committee. They could ask
That would be a quorum.
the superintendent to do that part. But I think leaving it open to them to decide, and you're worried about if it goes into 3 school committee
If
members,
it's
that it's a
3, it's an
quorum?
open quorum, so you wouldn't,
Okay.
they would never be able to have a meeting without calling a joint meeting.
Got you, so
It would
that,
require, their other board members would be legally allowed to partake in the conversation.
gotcha, so they'd have to avoid that.
So
Yep.
I'm not gonna tell them that, but I think I'm gonna say that, so
Sure.
they don't do it, because they'll be like, oh, all 3 of us will show up, and then I'll get an open meeting law complaint. All right, so one extra person that could be at the discretion of, we're gonna say the school committee to define,
Sure, absolutely. Yep.
but not member. I'm gonna put this, because I'm gonna read it all together for you.
Yep,
All right,
yep.
next one?
Local budget official, member of the local finance committee. And if I'm not mistaken, Heather, can you help me out with this? Did the finance committee, did they vote a member to participate in this process?
Yes, it would be I believe it was the same member that we had talked about.
Oh, okay, great, all right.
Okay,
School business administrator, that position is,
Christie.
yes, yep.
Okay,
MSBA asked for members of the community to also be a part of this process. They do ask for some sort of expertise or background in areas that are connected to a project like this. So first, their requirement, a member of the community with architecture, engineering, and/or construction experience. And so our thought was that Heather and I would take the applicants, we have 5 applicants that have applied from the community, and that we would take some time next week, if this board, if this makeup of this committee is approved by the board, we'll take some time next week to meet with those folks and to make some decisions around which member of the community could best represent the background with architecture, engineering, and construction. And then we're also, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So with this, it looks like, all the other members are like, they are in a school committee or select board. So this is not set in stone, right? My only thing is, it will be beneficial if you could include, and also the public is non-voting member, so maybe consider more than 1 member, just a suggestion.
Sure. And I think too, one of the questions that was raised about the number of voters that shake out with the interest from both the select board and the school committee, if it is an even number, then you might want to look at one of your members of the community becoming another voting member so that you do have an odd number.
all right. And you had one other on here, is this another one that's a,
We had a vast amount of different experiences that was presented by members of
Okay.
the community, and I think having discussions next week would help us bring another second member of the community on board to be a part of the process and the project.
so a little bit about this, when the select board creates a subcommittee, it winds up going to our town administrator that normally takes volunteer applications, make sure this aligns to the board creation. In this aspect, it would be our town administrator with our superintendent, collaborating and looking at the folks that have submitted, and then recommending to this board for appointment at the next meeting. I don't even know when that is, or the next time we meet, you would bring those forward.
Correct.
So it's a little different than how we normally do it for the public, but it's done this way so that we kind of stay out of picking the member. It's something that you guys evaluate and you bring to us, the candidates that you both agree to.
Absolutely.
All right, so I thank you for that, what I have seen, and I think I'm just gonna reiterate what you're asking. You're asking for the select board to create this subcommittee. Right now, the request would be 2 select board members, 2 school committee members, a principal, superintendent, our town administrator / SBC member, our facilities director on the town side, which would be Chuck, the school, a local finance committee member, which they have appointed, and the school business administrator, 1 person with architecture from the residents, architecture or building experience, and 1 extra role that is gonna sit with the school committee to define and to appoint.
Yes.
Since they will have 2 seats and they do 3, it'll be quorum. Does that sound fair to everyone? Does that make sense to everyone? Do I have a motion to approve that?
I'll make a motion to approve that which you just described.
Do I have a second? Before I go through a roll call, did anything that I just reiterated,
I have a question real quick. Are we going to be able to have enough time to have another meeting before we have all of the members selected before August 1st?
we will, it's summertime and we have nothing to do, so we'll just have a meeting with 72-hour notice. I think someone just
really
walked out of a
can't have
room because they
anybody-
don't want her to
I have
attend
to
it.
be on this.
So we will have to have a
Sorry.
quicker meeting once you guys have had your meeting. So if school committee's not gonna have their meeting till July, and is it July? No, it is July. Whatever time, whatever day they have their meeting, which I probably should know, but don't. As soon as they have their meeting, we will then be able to have our meeting, because we'll need those names to actually make the appointments here. So everyone has to have the appointments, the names of those individuals, and then brought here. And you have 72 hours to do that after the school committee takes a vote.
We got it
Okay.
covered.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none. Vanessa?
Yes.
Raj?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
I'm a yes?
Yes.
Okay, before we move on to the next item, I'd like to do the appointment of the 2 select board members to this committee. I'm gonna start this off by saying it will not be me.
I'll make a motion to select David.
David as one? I'm not gonna ask you if you accept it, because you're new, so you get to. Do I have a second? David? Any further discussion? Hearing none?
Sorry, I have one.
Go ahead.
Are we really doing 2 select board members, or are we sticking with 1 select board member to do both roles?
We just created it with 2, so we're gonna do 2 select board members.
I know that there needs to be representation for both, but 1 person could be the representation for both, correct?
We could rescind the prior vote that had 2
Or-
select board members and recreate it with 1 select board member.
Or could we just appoint each select board member with secondary responsibility to the other position?
We can do whatever you want, but that was our
I'm
first
sorry,
vote.
I must have missed that part. I would like to suggest that we only have 1 select board member.
Discussion?
Yep, go ahead.
So can you elaborate on? I think my microphone was muted. Can you elaborate on why just the 1?
It's just my personal preference. I just think that, I think that the school committee is a little bit more involved. I think that the town side of things, I think only 1 is necessary, and I think it leaves room for some more people with other experience on the board.
In this situation, if you were suggesting this, then would the 5th vote, assuming we need 5, would you then suggest that the superintendent cover the tiebreaker role, or do you want a different voting member?
In my opinion, I would suggest that one of the community members that's a voting member take that 5th vote.
So someone that's not currently in an elected or appointed town position, but just a member of the community?
Correct.
Interesting.
I'm scared to talk. No, it didn't echo, right?
You're scared to.
I know, because it echoed. All right, so we do have, so I want to approach us, we'll wrap this motion up. And if someone would like to make another motion to change the makeup of the board, we can do that. But I'm going to leave, there was a motion and a second for David Yu to be the select board member. So why don't we go through that first?
Are we still in the discussion on 1 or 2 select board members?
No, so that was our first vote. We all just took a vote to make up the board. This is a vote to
Okay.
appoint the members to the board.
Okay.
So we're just appointing one member at this point.
Then, just- if we're just appointing one, then I'm going to not vote for me.
Hold on. I think the motion right now is to appoint someone from the board, one of 2. We haven't, what we voted on was 2 select board members. We're just voting on one of the 2, right?
Correct.
With the possibility of going back and revisiting the number of folks.
If someone makes a motion to rescind the last one. But right now, it would be just to appoint what is in front of us, and what was motioned and a seconded was appointing one member of the select board, which would have been David, who was motioned, and David seconded. It is just to appoint one member. So, gonna, Vanessa, yes on David or no to the board?
I mean, my vote really depends on what we're doing for the composition. If we're having 2 select board members do it, then I say sure, but honestly, I think that David's, kind of got his hands full with the DCR thing, and I just don't know if his resources might be better allocated to that. And so I guess if I have to make a decision, I'm going to vote no, if that makes any sense.
That's fine. Raj?
For me, yes.
Yes.
David, are you voting for yourself? This might,
I would vote no purposely to fail me out of being assigned and then to reopen the composition conversation because that seems like we have someone that wants to discuss that. So,
okay.
with the
You're
possibility
voting
that,
no,
no,
I'm gonna vote no
Okay.
since you vote no. Now we're gonna go back to the first vote. So the first vote, was to have 2 select board members on this board. Before.
I'd like to make an amendment.
Every other position that we want to stay the same that we listed, right? Yes? Okay,
Yes.
all right. Does someone have a motion?
I make that motion to change it from 2 select board members to 1.
Okay, do I have a second for that? Okay. Discussion. Raj?
I think, it doesn't make any sense at all. So, school committee, there are 2 members. Select board is the highest board in the town. So there is nothing wrong in having, in my opinion, 2 members of the select board, and also the select board weigh-in, lot of things go into this building, if at all, if this goes through the building. So my view is 2 members should be there.
Okay.
I
I'll
guess
just say,
my theory is that I think that the opinion needs to be spread out a little bit more. And I think that having a community member that maybe, have some construction experience, or maybe a parent, somebody who has a little bit more, a different point of view, I think they deserve the vote more than a second select board member.
We're not talking about leaving the number of members of the committee or the board the same and just.
I understand that, but this would remove a second vote from the select board. This would keep 1 select board member as a voter, and then we would have to have a 5th member, somebody else, as another vote.
Personally, I just feel like to Raj's point, the select board is the highest board in the town. We need the representation, and ultimately, we have the responsibility to make, to stand by some of these decisions of votes. I prefer not to relinquish the authority of the board to make some decisions on that front.
And also, can I?
Go ahead.
And also, if at all, if this goes forward, we do have to go to the town. We do have to sell this project. So if you have to sell this project, so people will listen, people will weigh in on the select board member rather than a community member goes and talk. So anyway, my feeling is whether I would give importance for the select board member. For the community member, if you want to have more community member, I'm more than okay with that. But cut short on a select board member, giving no importance for the select board member, I'm not for that.
More to the point, Raj said if it's to go forward, it has to go forward. The town needs that school.
No, I'm just saying it has to go forward, but, anything could happen from now to, whenever it happens. There are so many hurdles we have to go through,
But-
keeping it in mind.
So, I'm going to interrupt you guys. So typically, I had to check just to make sure I was right. So typically in the past, when a new building was put in place, we had a building, say, committee, or it was FIST back in the day, or another one. And they were made up basically of parts or all of the select board. I like the makeup of this because there is 2 school committee members who will be very versed in school committee things, but will not have any clue about town operations, our financial stability, or the long-term impacts weighing against other buildings. I like the community members because there is more than one. There's the building person and then that other role that I'm going to mess the name up. The benefit, what I would say to you guys is, David, you're new and you're taking on a lot of stuff, and I like that. But you will be put in a position to be the front runner by yourself, right, from the select board, because we're not going to have the information that you're going to have in these meetings, and you really will be making decisions that impact the entire town, being 40% of our town is over the age of 55. You will be impacting people that have a set income with 2 months under your belt, 3 maybe by the time this meeting kicks off. I feel like that is a disservice to you a little bit because it puts a lot of weight on you to do it. I also feel, and to be completely honest, it does end kind of with this board, our board controls warrant. They don't have to put this on a warrant, so it's good to have 2 members because you need 3 to get it on, right? So if you have buy-in by 2, it's a lot easier. We have seen things that we didn't think were going to be a problem, and they got to this vote, and it was 3-2 or 4-1, and it didn't move forward, and everybody was shocked. I do think it actually benefits this board to have 2 members that really do hold the power and control to make sure it even gets to town meeting, because without that, this board cannot bring it forward unless it was like a citizen's petition. But even that would be pretty hard for those members, like our finance committee, to get on board if the select board says, we did not vote to endorse, right? Like you get that weird, we've seen it, that weird kind of uncomfortable feeling. Personally, this is what I've seen. We are very stretched thin. I mean, we're all on, I don't even know some of the boards that I'm on at this point. I'm trying to get off them. But I do think Vanessa, it does help you to bring that to bring that forward at a town meeting. So that would be my only thing is I think let it be created with the 2. You still have 2 residents on here. But it also maybe have it be 2 members where you have 1 member that has school-age kids, maybe a member that is not me that does not have school-age kids, something along those lines if you're looking for like diversity. But that kind of was my thought pattern.
Bearing in mind that members of the select board and the school committee have been elected by the community, so the community has had a voice in those who would be sitting on the board. So to your point, it's important for the approval process to make sure that the voices are there and that we've got to convince 1 more person to approve it, so.
So we're in the discussion. I believe we had a motion and a second, correct?
No.
Can you, Correct, okay.
I have one other things for the superintendent. So in the past, all the building committees, we did included the DPW director. Still, this is involving something to think about it. Something to think about it. I'm not saying we have to make the thing here, something to think about.
No, thank you, thank you.
So the motion in front of us is to change the makeup of the board to have only one member of the select board on the committee. There was a second, I can't remember by who now, off the top of my head. David? All right, I'm gonna go through a roll call. Vanessa, do you approve?
Yes.
Raj?
No,
Jay?
No.
I'm a no. David?
No.
Okay, so the makeup will stand. The next item would be to appoint one other member to this board that is not me. Does anyone want to do
Of
it?
note, we didn't appoint a member.
Yes, we did David.
I
It's
thought-
3 yeses to 2 no's.
Got it.
So,
Got it, okay.
Yep.
My apologies.
so for the second, I would like to nominate Vanessa.
Second.
Oh, wait a second, I lied. I'm wrong. We all voted no for David, right? So we're going back? There was 3 no's. 3 no's?
Oh, I'm sorry.
And 2 yeses. All right, sorry about that.
Okay, great.
So do we have a motion for David?
I'll make that motion.
You don't have to, sorry, I know I said it.
I will second.
Okay. Any further discussion on David outside of what's already been heard? None?
Do you feel like you've got the bandwidth to accomplish that?
I will make the time.
I think it's important that a person with school-age children have a view into that selection process, so, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Raj?
yes.
Jay?
Yes.
I'm a yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Now, I really didn't think this would be the contentious part of the meeting, so this is pretty good. Does anyone else want to raise their hand? And Vanessa, you don't have to raise your hand because I know you're on a bunch of other boards too. And if you wanted to recommend someone else that's not me, or if you guys have a different thought, I am totally
What are your
good with
thoughts
that.
on being on the board?
I have zero. I can't.
Yeah, so I nominate
I would like to
Vanessa
be
for
on
the
the board.
second.
All right, so a nomination, or do I have a second?
Second.
Further discussion?
I think it's really important that we have people with school-age children represented on the board.
Okay.
I appreciate that drum. Keeps getting beat.
Anyone else? Hearing none. Vanessa, do you vote for yourself?
Yes.
Raj?
No,
Jay?
Yes, 100%.
I'm a yes. David?
Yes.
Okay, so now we've made it through the hardest part. Is there anything you need for us to do, or you're gonna work with the town administrator and let us know when the appointments are ready so that we can have a meeting?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think the only recommendation that was made was to consider DPW director as a part of this list. If we come back with the names, can we look at that, or would that not be, we've already made up the committee and we need to go with what we made up? Just so I understand, I'm asking for my own understanding.
I would say, since we've been through 2 rounds, we keep it as is unless another member of this board would like to make a motion to change the makeup of the board.
And as a reminder too, it's not necessarily set in stone, it's for our initial submission.
Yep.
So there may come a time in this project where we say, we really need to look at another person being a part of this process, and that is okay.
I think I heard the school committee has a position that's undefined, open to, so perhaps that person could be assigned to that slot.
I think it is, I think it is very advantageous for you as a DPW director who has lots of knowledge.
Absolutely.
So if, this is only my suggestion. I don't care if it is allowed or not. So,
Thank you.
just my view. That's it.
We'll let the school committee take that then, and one less thing we have to make a decision on.
Sure.
All right, is there anything else?
Just one question. So you said in the future, the composition can change. I'm guessing when that, should that occur, besides informing MSBA of that process and formal documentation, it will have to come back to the select board at that point to approve the change to that committee.
Yes.
Is there, in your experience, having gone through building a new school through this process, is there a particular cadence that you think would be, we would want to hold to, say not more than, say, twice a year or once a year? What was, in your
Cadence of meetings?
cadence of how frequently the committee changes? The makeup of the committee, I should say.
Once you get into construction phase, then things can change pretty significantly. And when we get into the feasibility process, which is down the road, when we have an architect and an engineer, a firm that we bring on board for this project, they're gonna also parse out what type of frequency we're meeting with and what's essential for the project. The reason why we put forward the voting members as we did is because the voting members are gonna, hopefully, those positions are gonna hold true through the project so that you can move things forward. There are gonna be meetings where members of this committee may not be able to attend certain meetings. And so we wanna try to make sure that we're on the same page as the voting members to make sure that things move forward in a timely fashion and that things don't get held up, because in construction, when things get held up, they cost more money. So we want to try to make sure we're as effective and as efficient as possible.
And I'm just gonna say one thing, because you don't have a lot of time. You have October town meeting to have this completely baked. So this board, my expectation is the board's formed, the people that are on this will have to sacrifice middle of the day, will need to be available, because if you count from this moment right now, take out holidays and weekends to our October meeting, by that meeting, you need to have a fully baked warrant article to ask for the amount of money for feasibility. It is going to be a stretch to even get something scheduled with this many people. I mean, I don't think the townwide committee meeting, since last town meeting, has even been able to meet one time because they can't get everybody in the room. So I think that's one of the things I will say to folks, that this is not gonna be an easy organizational type of, you're gonna have to be there, and if you miss a certain amount of them, you're not gonna know what's going on, and there's gonna be very difficult for recaps. I imagine these will be very long meetings.
It's absolutely imperative that it gets done, and
Yep.
people have to be committed to it.
All right, anything else? Last chance before we leave the room.
We're leaving the room?
I'm gonna run away. No? I'm scared. I'm gonna move on to the next agenda item. It's paving. It's very exciting, street paving. Do you
It
wanna
is very
stay?
exciting.
If you'd like my professional
No, just-
opinion, I can
just run.
absolutely.
Right.
It's very exciting.
Thank you for your time.
Takes
Thank
my
you.
name.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good luck on the school committee and getting them to, hopefully they're faster than this.
Thank you, thank you.
Welcome. I know I called you up, but I now see at least 2 members of the planning board, which we have a member of our select board that is also on planning and zoning, so.
No, I represent Select Board. No,
So, Mark, at this point, do you have a quorum?
oh. If you didn't have the quorum, I will switch to.
So that's my thing. So I'll have you sit for just a second, because then I can bring this forward, and I see, do you want to come up?
Are they there? I just don't know who's there.
So, Mark, I have Frank here, and I have Raj here. So would you like
And
to
me.
call your meeting to order?
Sure, I'll start the select board meeting at
Planning board meeting.
7 o'clock. Perfect. Sorry, planning board meeting.
Do we want him to move over?
Not you.
Not you. Raj, would you
Raj,
like to
you-
move over there?
I can sit here, right? Yeah,
I don't,
I can sit here.
it's fine. All right, so Mark, members present, Frank, Raj, you called your meeting to order. We have a joint meeting agenda item due to a fail election, to put someone on the planning board. What we do in cases like this is we have a joint meeting with that board, and we have a person that the planning board is recommending, and also that has gone through our volunteer form and that we have in front of us, and that person is Paul Anderson. Do you have anything, Mark, Raj, or Frank, that you
The
would like to
board-
say?
Just to inform the select board, the planning board did vote to nominate him. So the whole board is behind him. He was a former chair. He was, I don't know, I think 3 years of being the chair. I mean, I see no problem with getting Paul on the board.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion. You want to make a motion that we vote for Paul to be the nominee for the board?
And this would only be for that term. I don't know if this term is 1 year
I think it's
2
a
years.
1 year.
1
It's
year?
a year
A
until the
1 year
vote
term?
comes up. Yeah.
And then he would have to run for election again. I'd say.
Clearly, he would want to.
Is Paul here?
He is.
Paul, would you mind just coming up and stating your name and your address so I can send you a Christmas card for the record? And I have one question for you. It's only one.
Okay. Paul Anderson, 55 Bowen Street, former planning board member.
I will announce that Kevin also is on the planning board. He is present in the back of the room. So Paul, the
Okay,
magic
good.
question is, thank you for stepping forward. Do you plan to run after this year?
It's a good question. Do I need to give you a yes or no answer right now?
Well, it's a question I asked. You could say you abstain from answering, or you plead the fifth.
Did say it was a good question.
I plead the fifth. I can't say yes or no to that question.
All right. I have a motion from Mark. Did I have a second, Faye? No. Do I have a second?
Second that.
Second, Frank. All right. It's open for discussion. Does anyone have any discussion for this? Hearing none, I'm going to do a roll call for the select board, and Mark, then we're going to jump to you. Vanessa?
Yes.
Raj?
Planning.
Oh, damn it. Jay?
Yes.
Christina, yes.
Yes.
David, yes. Now we will jump. Mark, would you like to go through your members?
Sure, roll call vote. I will vote yes. Mark Frieden. Frank?
Frank, yes.
Kevin?
Kevin Leclerc, yes.
Yes for me.
Okay. You had nothing
Perfect.
else
I'll
on your
send it back.
agenda, right? Do you want a motion to close your
Nope.
meeting?
Yes, we can, I'll welcome Paul, and then I will close the meeting. Or I'll motion to close the meeting.
Welcome.
All right, do I have a second?
Yes. Second.
Frank?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Raj?
Yes.
Welcome. I still want an answer, though, at some point. Whenever you think of it, just message me, all right?
Answer next year.
All right. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank
That was
you.
the easiest thing we've done.
It is.
All
The
right.
planning board is very efficient.
Very efficient.
It's my first unanimous election.
You killed it. I don't know. That's why you run next year. All right, so very exciting topic, 2025, 2026 road paving list. And our DPW director, who I made get up and then sit back down,
I'm ready to do the same anytime.
you're up. So, I have never seen this in the years that I've been on the select board, so this, was scary and okay. So I do have it in front of me.
You have that? So here's another version, if that's okay that I can. bring
I
forward.
don't, do whatever you want at this
This'll
point.
help out
I've
a
lost
little bit.
complete control.
And Raj is familiar with the title there, that survey from 2017.
Oh, yes.
Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
All right. So if I'm looking at this, this is a survey that was done in 2017. Seems a little scary.
Well, it was models of
Okay.
the future of the paving plan. And basically, what my foreman and myself have been doing for months now is we've been scouring the city, going through all our complaints of the worst streets that we get potholes and all kinds of other complaints, and we put this list together. And then using the plan that the town had gone through and paid for, we just verified it with that. and see what we could come up with. And then I started doing some of the, basically the math to figure out the high end and the low end of what it would cost us to do some of the roads. And that's just some of the worst roads in town, but you don't have to do them all. You know, it's basically, you could figure out what you want to do in a year.
I was trying to look for my notes. We had several meetings on this that took a long time. Someone that was prior to you, there was a company that we hired, and they did street assessments. And
WPI?
well, no,
kids.
that was the very last one. The one before that, that gave us a database that had all this information on it, and there's pictures. Someone couldn't access it, but they had a printout. Then 3 years later, they came back to the board within the last 4 years and said, we're having this other group go out and do an assessment of these streets with photos and cameras. And where is that? Because that is very different than 2017. And we've paid, I mean, one of them was over $50,000 we invested in this. So I'm just a little concerned that we don't have that.
50,000, I couldn't find it all. If it was a nice program,
I think they lost it, if I have to say.
yeah,
They lost it.
all I was told, basically, the last town administrator, not town administrator, the DPW director, had, what was it, WPI? The students did it for $5,000. They went and did road work, very inanimate, just showing different conditions and stuff like that.
So something, I'll add it to my list. Fine $50,000 road.
I'll find the meeting minutes on this. It was my first year on, and my question was, can you give me the computer that has this, and I will get into the system to get the data? Because it was, I don't know if we had partly a
I think
grant.
it was
this
Gary Gallagher was the DPW director.
So
After-
I think it's good. I just, our board gets hit a lot with, right, we make decisions to spend funds, and then for some reason, it will come back forward, and unless you've been on the board a while, you wouldn't remember being in a meeting that took 2 hours where we hammered the way on how did we lose access to a database. And then that's when they said, well, we have this group, and if, I'm gonna go back and look at those notes, and what we were told is this group's amazing. It's like Google Street Maps, and they're gonna take photos, and it's gonna be great, but what I'm hearing is that wasn't great, and now we're back to a 2017 survey and folks driving around to assess it. I don't disagree that you know what you're doing, because I have no clue, and I get constant calls about potholes, which I didn't know was part of my job. But I would just say for the town administrator, if we could find that, because I know someone in the public's gonna listen, they're gonna find it and send it to me, and probably say, see, you use this money and then you don't use it. I have one more question on this. So these are ranked like good, fair, poor, excellent. Would these be, it's over
It's
$2 million in road work, 16 streets, $2 million. This is covered by Chapter 90?
So
Oh.
this is by no means a project
Okay,
list. What we're seeking is your input into which of these roads, which grouping of these roads, would you like Tom and his crew to put together a package for Chapter 90, which we would bring back to you for Chapter 90?
And put out the bid.
Conversation.
So, I mean, from my perspective, I mean, like Thomas Street is a major street with a lot of traffic on it, Shrewsbury Street. I can tell you that there's a bunch of streets in my neighborhood on this list. And so Maplewood, Longview, those streets are heavily trafficked because Worcester made one of those streets up, heading up Maple Street to Burncoat Street, made one of those streets one-way, forcing the traffic down Maple
Yeah.
Street, cutting through, Maplewood and Longview down to,
And that's ideal, the more traveled streets
so,
with a poor condition.
right.
That's where you want to go to
So,
as a start.
my view here is, and yes, I'm biased because that's my neighborhood, right? But But, Thomas Street, that's kind of an outlier in that group, but Maplewood, Longview. that
And some of
section up
these
there
are
is-
sections too.
Yeah, I can see that, right? So like Longview, Maplewood, I don't have my glasses with me here, so forgive me, but there's that group of streets up there that just, they could have been fair and good, 5, 6, 7 years ago. The traffic through there's been increased, and I can see why that's, problematic. Streets like Rivington, where they really only exist to hold houses and support the people that live in those houses, I don't know that would be my first priority.
Yeah, that was called in with a bunch of complaints. What's going on there is it looks like it's delaminating segments.
Yep.
Like every 12 feet, it's popping all the way around. So when you drive in there, it's like a roller coaster.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's a fairly new street from what I've seen.
So this says it's in excellent condition.
It was in 2017,
Okay, so the
17.
red is what was in 2017. Okay.
so it's progressively deteriorated.
Can I make,
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
So then, so two parts. One, am I correct in that then since 2017, none of these streets have had major road work done to them? Is that correct?
There could be a couple here or there that I'd have to dig up.
Okay.
But this whole plan that I have, the 2017, it goes through a series of years, and it tells you exactly what you should be doing and with what monies, including Chapter 90, within the plan. But a lot of it, from what I gather in the short time I've been here, hasn't been followed because of lack of funding.
Okay, and then that plan that you're referencing, and/or another way I'm gonna ask it, do we have mass dot data that indicates traffic levels on these streets? Or are we just sort of gauging on number of houses and which ones are
That plan,
thoroughfares?
I noticed quickly, it didn't have the MassDOT data.
Okay, is that something that we seemingly can pull to understand their estimates on traffic flow, right? I very much agree to target the highest traffic ones. I just don't know how we best determine the highest traffic ones without the
Right.
Department of Transportation's data to back it up.
so, you could hate or love me for this. West Boylston Street is an absolute disaster. I know that it's state-owned, but it is rippled like an ocean. And dangerous in multiple places by CVS, extremely dangerous by Walmart. We were supposed to be on a tip project for that, or something I heard, or,
Yes, we talked to the engineers at District 3. We called them up again this year to see if we made one of their tip programs, and they said, no, we didn't.
we normally have to submit something. They don't just pick
Project
us.
in- So there's a whole project intake
Yep, that we need to
and
do.
that we could do to get on their 5-year transportation plan. Back to the traffic study data, CMRPC will provide us, they do that on an annual basis. If you provide them with a number of roads,
Isn't it,
Thank you.
this one is a MassDOT project? This is a MassDOT road, right? So they will be the one doing the project, not us.
On
Are we
12,
talking
yes.
It's not town-owned road?
So separate the
Well-
two. So the first one she was answering was for me. We would need to submit an intake process for the TIP program for Route 12. It's not something the state will then go say, yes, we think you have the most important one, and fill out the information. The town needs to do that. What I would like to say is, we need to do that. For 4 years, we've said the same thing. I haven't seen anything. I would like to leave the board at least knowing we submitted for the project. The second one would be, these are town-owned roads, and what I think we should do with this, Tom, I personally think we should do is take what you have here, bump it against the CMRPC if they have the traffic study against that, and then I think if we can't find any of the data from any of the other groups that have had this, I think these should be ranked in what you're recommending in a list to be for Chapter 90. Because I mean, I can pull out here like Lost Oak. Lost Oak is
the
seven.
golf course,
Yeah, I would say
seven
butts the
houses.
golf course, has 7, 8 houses, high-end houses on it. I almost never see people traveling, but I'm also don't live there, right? Would I rank that over a busier road that might have more damage? I'm not really sure how I would, I'm using Lost Oak because it was one I underlined. I would look for you guys to say, based on all the data I have, and based on financially what we can do, or we think we could submit and get, here's how I'm gonna stage it. And then what I would also say is, because we've run into this in the last 4 years, we decided to do work on a road without talking to the light department, who then also decided to move poles after we put a brand new road in. Because one, the right hand wasn't talking to the left, and now I have poles sitting in weird spots, which was odd, but it's like the weirdest thing to happen. And I run the roads and laughed when I saw the pole getting ripped out of the brand new road that was put in, and went, I could have sent an email, but maybe.
Yep.
I'll leave that with you.
Yep. So thank you for that feedback. Tom and I will, we wanted to have this list in front of you now, so that when we come back
Yep.
with a more narrowed scope of a Chapter 90 request, it isn't the first time that you've seen the list and you know what direction we're working towards.
I like that I got the list, though.
Can I ask one question for the DPW?
Go ahead.
My question is it Route 12, town road or?
It's a state road.
State road.
State
That
road.
is why we
State road.
stated it needs to go through TIP and has to be submitted by the town. It is a state-owned road.
And the condition of the road contributes to accidents and car damage and all that.
I
It's
totally
horrendous.
understand. I totally understand that point. My clarification is it town road or state road? So my earlier knowledge is, the state normally fixes the road. So that's what, I don't care where it's fixed, Thank you.
They're supposed to fix the road.
We certainly will not spend our hard-earned Chapter 90 money on a state road. I can assure you of that.
I totally understand.
Yeah.
I know that is the state road, I know it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for coming.
All righty, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom. Now that I see what the updates were, I'm good with it.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna jump because that was new business. We had a new business item for K-12 remote work policy. It was, recommended be put on the agenda by a select board member. Now that we've made it through that, I'm gonna go to that select board members and,
So I noticed, in this review, I've noticed that we don't have a remote work policy. I myself have a job because I have a remote work set up, but I need to take a look and see like what we're doing in terms of policy and procedure and what positions are applicable for remote work and under what circumstances. So I did a pretty comprehensive look at Commonwealth cities and towns, specifically in Worcester County, in terms of how towns handle the situation from a regulatory standpoint. We're all over the map, select board policies, bylaws, procedures or whatnot. So I think at this point, what I'd like to recommend anyway is that the select board take up the mantle of creating a remote work policy. I can draft one for a subsequent meeting, or somebody else could be assigned to it, but I would like to at least have that conversation for purposes of uniformity and to reduce any sorts of, to create some guidelines around what we're talking about when we talk about remote work, who is and isn't eligible for it, if it's even a thing that we should consider. So that's my pitch.
How can we support the board in that?
so one of two things. One, we don't have a policy in town, so in the absence of a policy, that means we do not have a work from home opportunity, and none of our jobs currently today have work from home as a job description. We could take it, since it's a select board policy, we are updating policies. We could take that to assign creating this as a policy that someone can take to create a draft of the policy, and bring back for the creation, in one of our select board meetings.
There's several ways by which communities have addressed this. I mean, from creating a bylaw, going through town meeting and that whole approach, to creating select board policies. And like, I think my preference for expeditiousness, I guess, and the fact that we're reviewing the policies now, it makes sense for us to take on that and address the issue. And, you know, my concerns are uniformity, creating, you know, documentation in terms of what happens, what's the decision-making process around that, and creating some guardrails around that. So,
I don't have a problem with it. I think it is good because you can't, if it's okay for one, then it's okay for all, and then we become very different dynamics. So I don't want to create another policy or update one, but that's just me. Does anyone want to create this policy to bring or put on a future agenda item? That is not me.
I motion.
Okay, you motion to take it?
Motion to allow for the,
Creation?
yes.
Okay. So the agenda item does say review or creation of policies, so I have a motion to create a remote work policy. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none. Vanessa?
Yes?
Raj?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
I'm yes. David?
Yes.
Okay, the next one is who's getting assigned this? Do I have a motion?
I'm an HR guy.
All right, so do you want to make a motion?
I will happily make a motion to create a draft policy.
So there's a motion to have Jay be the person to create the draft to bring back to the select board. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Further discussion? Hearing none? Vanessa?
Yes?
Raj?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
I'm yes. David? Yes. Okay. Whew. Wow. All right, old business. I was thinking it was gonna be 47 minutes, but I've epically failed on this. So, town meeting survey. It's exciting. What do you think?
Sorry, go ahead.
Default to, or defer to Vanessa. She created the
Okay.
list of questions.
Vanessa, what are the list of questions for the public?
Oh, I don't have it up in front of me, but I would just like to add the two most important things that are not on the list is we need to put in there the preferred weekday and preferred time, please.
All right, hold on one second. I'm gonna look for what's on here.
I put those in because I remember typing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Hold on a second.
Did it get cut off, Vanessa, maybe?
When did
No, I
Heather, when did
had
it go out?
With us, and now I can't click it, but
No, it's not hyperlinked in the agenda packet.
If you right-click it?
No, it's not hyper.
Okay.
What day did you send it? I can just read it,
It
it's fine.
was, that was the one that went out today.
Okay, so, hold on a second. Was it in the agenda or sent via just email?
It was both. I can pull it right up for you now.
So do you have a different agenda packet? Because I have it open and this isn't hyperlinked.
The one that says V2? So the first question is, how many meetings have you attended in the last 5 years? Choices are 1, 2 to 5, or 5 or more. The second question is, what motivated you to attend the town meeting this year? Your options are, I always try to attend town meeting, I had the time this year, or there were specific articles this year that I wanted to vote on. Question 3, what typically works against your attending town meeting? I need to capitalize the M in meeting. Please select all that apply for you. Town meeting is scheduled at an awkward time. Town meeting is too long. it is difficult for me to attend in person. It takes time away from family time. I am too busy or have conflicts. I don't enjoy attending.
I'm going to vote that one. Oh, sorry.
For real.
Your mute button's
I don't always have a strong opinion about the articles. I tend to agree with how the majority tends to decide. None of the above. I'm typically able to prioritize and attend town meeting or other. Question 4. How did the presentations and discussions at town meeting affect decisions you made about articles? The options for answer are, for the most part, I know how I would vote before town meeting. For the most part, I hadn't really thought about how I would vote until I was at the town meeting. On some articles, I was undecided and I wanted to hear the different arguments. On some articles, I thought I was going to vote one way but changed my mind after listening to the different arguments. Question 5, prior to town meeting, which information sources did you use to educate yourself on issues on the warrant, and how valuable were they to you? Options are the annual town meeting warrant, attending or watching recordings from public information sessions or other board and committee meetings, the town website, the town Facebook, or the community non-town Facebook pages. And you have choices between essential, useful, not helpful, or didn't use.
Okay, so,
I've got 3
oh,
more.
you've got 3 more?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were,
It's okay. I mean, I don't have to.
oh, you're good.
Okay.
Sorry, I thought you were.
Question 6, do you have a preference for the day of the week the town meeting should be held? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday? Town meeting typically lasts 6 hours. Do you have a preference for time? Town meeting should begin. Check all you prefer. 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m. And then lastly, do you have comments or suggestions for the town meeting, for making town meeting more effective or engaging? I
Thank
say
you so
10.
much for reading all of these. I don't have a problem with any of these. The problem is getting people to fill them out. I think this needs to be more than just socially online. We need to have printouts, library, senior center. When we've done, when SWAT did a survey last year or the year before, I actually went to the senior center so folks could come up and I would put it in for them to help them kind of ask the questions and go through it. So I think if we do something like this, that's your best, you're to get your best diverse group of folks.
I think,
I don't want a Saturday or Friday.
I think the survey is a great idea. Do we have a target number? What's a successful survey result in terms of N?
146, I think we had on the SWAT one.
Well, I think we've been practicing with the fillable form opportunity. We'll make it as easy as possible online for people to fill it out. We will have copies available. I say if we had 200, I'm optimistic. So one question that is not on this list, and I think would be maybe that we had talked about when I first started, a whole 2.5 months ago, was the town meeting mailer. Whether you wanted to include a question about how effective the mailer is. We know that's one of the bigger town meeting expenses, and whether or not it's worth the return.
You know, thinking about that, perhaps what we should do is include some interactive element with that. So, hey, you know, here's a QR code to a survey in advance of the meeting. So, will you be attending? Yes, no. If yes, why? If no, how come? You know, that sort of thing.
I have one comment. On the number 7, you put 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m. So I would add any other time, so that some people, So the reason I'm saying is, we had Saturday town meetings, This was, I think, 12 or.
I was running to soccer fields asking parents if they would come up. I found, I think, you in the road. You were running by and we made you check in because we couldn't get enough folks.
You always find me on the street.
Vanessa, that's okay with you?
Yes.
We'll add that.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve with the addition of that? The town meeting survey
And something about the mailer.
and something about the mailer? Yes?
So moved.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Raj?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
I'm yes. David?
Yes.
Okay. That was good. Let's see. I want to skip this one. All right, consider signing the contract with Republic Services for curbside collection, effective July 1st through June 30th, 2030. I think at this point, everyone on this board has reviewed this contract. Do we want to take any discussion on this? Do we want to talk a little bit about, I'm gonna highlight some things. So, because this came up a lot from folks, because there was an assumption there was a ton more resident houses in this contract. It's 2,540 residential units that will be getting trash picked up, and 11 town facilities. Let's see. There is some really good things in here that we haven't had before through our town administrator with some suggestions around some of the service level agreements or around their service level to us. There was not in that before, like failure to immediately pick up materials, spill during collection, occurrences, some failure to collect waste, continued violation of traffic laws, which I find funny that we have this because I would assume the police would address traffic laws, but I like that we can double fine them. Failure to leave non-collection notices for improper prepared materials. I don't actually know what that means, but we get $50 per occurrence, so that's good.
Do you want me to?
Yeah, if you know, I don't.
So we had talked, you and I had back and forth a little bit about excluded waste and the liability of excluded waste. So if a resident
Yep.
improperly disposes of something, it is
Concrete.
It is on Republic's list of things to do is to notify them that these things are not allowed, and they get a notice, and that's where the liability kicks in for us if we do not follow up with that. But this essentially puts the burden of starting that notification process on Republic to let that resident know that what they are disposing of is improper or should be on the excluded waste list.
And this is opposed to the current conditions where they would just not take it and there would be the resident would have no idea why it wasn't taken.
Correct.
Okay.
I thought, don't they usually put like a little sticker on? Okay, so it's not a
But
formal
I
notification.
don't think that is, I think that it's more of a afterthought than it is a matter of practice. And this just sort of puts it into writing that if they don't put the sticker, then and it becomes a regular occurrence that the sticker is omitted, then we can go back on them for a fine.
Another hot topic item, and I was trying to look up the name and because I had lost it, it was Sterling Street, but down as you're heading towards the police station. An item in here, it's number 6, beginning any single collection route prior to 7 a.m. or finishing after 5 p.m. without prior consent of the town is a $100 fine per day. This I'd say is important because many of you call me before 7 a.m. to report that your trash was picked up beforehand. I would prefer you call Heather or the DPW director for those, but you can also call me. I know we've had a lot of issues recently, including my neighborhood that's been after 6 or 7 p.m. So I think this was great. I'm just highlighting these because I know you guys can't see this, and these are definitely big things. Mark, your hand's up, but you know we're in the middle of a select board meeting, so I can't address you. Use of unmarked or uninspected collection vehicles. So recently, there were a few reports that a older model truck was driving around with two guys in t-shirts picking up trash, and they asked me to come look at their house camera. I also don't do that, but I did take the call, and those should be reported, just confirmed through someone else besides Christina Pedoni. Who would those go to?
Either Tom or myself. Yeah.
Okay. That's 500 an occurrence. All right, so those are some really,
We could actually be making money on this contract.
this, I mean, and we are very, very informative group. I learn a lot of stuff on West Boylston Neighbors Connect, and by phone calls. Apparently 2,500 households have my phone number. All right, moving through technical support, there's some items in here along with some customer support areas. Customer support is very helpful because when you guys call me after 5 o'clock and then I call the town administrator or Tom to say trash wasn't picked up, they then call Republic and no one's available in the office because it is after hours for them as well. This requires them to have customer service support or a direct line for you guys to reach, right?
Correct. Even on Sundays.
Even on, yes, even during graduation parties. All right, so, go ahead, you're good.
Question regarding, moving into 2026 timeframe, reading from the contract here, residential units shall be provided one 96-gallon wheeled cart for single stream recycling and one 64-gallon wheeled cart for solid waste. Once carts are implemented, households will be limited to the amount of solid waste and recycling that can fit inside the provided carts. So, are we, seemingly by the language of this, we're limited to what will fit in that cart, so the ability to have overflow such that, let's say you had a family gathering at your house, you generate extra trash, that next trash day, today, I would fill up my can and then perhaps place a bag or two in front of the can. Going forward, that option is not on the table, is that correct?
In this current language, that is not there. However, it is understood with the town, the town's SWAT committee and Republic that for FY '27, we'll need an amendment to this contract to deal specifically with the cart purchases because the town has not decided how they're going to address carts. And so as those discussions happen, that type of question will come up and we will have a further, right now, they have their very standard cart language in here, knowing that we will be amending and addressing
Okay.
that as we decide how we're going to
Because the
move
second,
forward.
the second part of that is that if we were limited to a 64-gallon size container for trash, and that if part of our funding of this is through the purchase of bags, we would essentially be limiting the purchase of bags going
Correct.
forward. Okay.
Correct. Further, we also want to make sure that we're amending to have language that for those residents who a 96 and 64 is just monstrous, far too big for their particular household needs, we want to make sure that we have accommodations for them as well.
Okay.
So we're acknowledging that that cart language is very standard and that we will be addressing it
Prior to the next fiscal year.
as we, as a community, figure out how we're going to purchase and/or maintain the carts.
Okay, and then last part of that, you mentioned the SWAT team, so the intent is to still collaborate with that group as this contract, should we sign it, then progresses and matures over time.
You can say that, collaborate, I say lean on heavily.
Okay.
All right, I have, so I have one thing, there's a lot of discussion that's not brought up in here around multi-unit homes In West Boylston, those are zoned homes or residential areas. Anything over 4 units is not usually, unless they receive a special permit or a zoning and planning. I think it actually even might come to the select board, has to approve having a development be on town trash because of the cost of that when you get into larger units. So multi-unit homes, I think it's 4.
4 per
Four.
building, yeah.
4 per building, are not on town trash. They are required to have, their own trash company, their own trash contract. With that said, there are some areas in town that are on town trash that are over 4 units within a building or have multi-units in an HOA type of setup. This does not change that outcome based on what I know. This is though, if a 4-building unit goes up, they do not come onto town trash, right? This is individual taxpayers that would go through zoning board. Please report those issues if you see that as well.
So year 1, it is exactly the way that it has always been. If you have trash collection as of June, as of today, you will have trash. Where we're looking to move forward with an enterprise fund is where we'll get into those types of issues and make modifications as necessary.
So that'll be amendments when the carts actually come into play, which would be next year. One other thing that is not outlined here, but because, you're 10 days from, or 12 days from being here, 90 days, I think it would be good to have a reporting process on, now that we have items in the agenda that are, they have to pay the town. Right now, there isn't a clear expectation of who gets those requests. And at the end of the day, this board all lives in town, and we were elected by you guys, and you have my number and our number, so you call us or show up at our house asking us to pick up trash. That did happen. I need to see something, like a process on a website, if you see an issue, to report an issue, because this could quickly, I'm thinking just Sterling Street, you could get 4 phone calls or 4 online complaints that they are at the house at 6:43 a.m. Because that is a regular call I receive, that they are at that house at 6:43 a.m. and it's not 7, and they're upset. So if
We'll
you
work on
outline that would be awesome. There's nothing else that I saw that was, jumped out to me. It seemed pretty standard. Is there anything else that you would say you'd want? Oh, there is one more thing, right? So if we have to pick up the trash, because that actually happened this year, is there's something that happens in that qualification? We don't pick the trash up? We don't pick the trash up, okay. Great. Their bonds, roads, anything else that you want to say?
No, just a very sincere thank you to SWAT, who provided a solid document for you all and myself to fine tune, and that we really would not be here if they had not done all that work up front. So
I have
Fantastic.
to agree.
Yeah.
As I said before, they're the only people that probably knew enough to do any of this
That's it.
stuff. It would be great after this goes through that this does make it back to SWAT so they actually see it, because I imagine when complaints start to come through, they're also going to make their way to every one of our boards.
They have been on the.
They're on
email-
it? Okay.
They've been on every email back and forth with Republic.
All right,
They are fully informed.
that is fantastic. All right, so knowing all the information, and some of the stuff I read, do I have a motion to approve and sign the contract as delivered to you in your
So
agenda
moved.
or packet? Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Vanessa?
Yes.
Raj?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Christina's yes?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything else I need to do with this? No. We just need to sign it. Okay. I don't know how that was easier than the creation of the school building committee. I'm kind of like that. I saw this going different in my world. All right, so the next item on the agenda, so we have the town administrator check-in. So as many people know, there was a heavy request about a probationary period. We did have that in Heather's contract. So she is coming up on July 13th. July 13th is 90 days.
Pretty close.
I was gonna say July 13th,
I think it's the 12th, but
July 12th.
the 12th is a Saturday and the 13th is a Sunday, so you pick.
At this point, it is, I'm gonna go with the Friday, but we'll go with what it is. So in an effort, we use in the town of West Boylston, the town of West Boylston Administrator Evaluation Instrument, which reading this, we also need to update this to not say selectman or select person, to be kind of with everyone else. And the process of this is it gets sent out to the individual members, they provide their feedback, and then those are sent to Heather. There is also like a consolidation. So I also had a chance to meet with Heather last Friday. God, the days are kind of burning through. Last Friday, so we went through some areas where we saw some really great things, and went some areas where we might see some need to change or modify going forward. One of the areas is service and support for the Board of Selectmen. This is just kind of learning routines for us and understanding how Heather works and we work and how we work together and having new board members. So on this one, expectations moving forward overall is just more communication, letting the board know more proactively what's happening. There's also the agenda and packets, which I think will, over time, we're getting kind of a handle on linking and kind of how the format's done. We're also going through kind of understanding how to help Heather in her role be successful with dealing with 5 individual bosses, really, if you think of this, and how we all kind of work together. The next one we had was around budget and administration. So this is preparing the budget. I don't know if you guys know, like 2 weeks into this, I don't even know if it was 2 weeks, she showed up and had to learn our whole budget, then had to go and meet with every department head, and had to go to town meeting, and try to get an override to pass after 30 years. As you all know, she met those expectations. I left there shocked. I thought it was great. That was a very challenging situation, and she did a lot of collaboration with the town accountant to develop the budget, also all the department heads, and to work on getting the 2.5 override and financial concerns addressed. That said, there's a lot of big things in front of her in a very short period of time. Now that the trash contract is signed, it's also, what are we gonna do next? We're all kind of on our toes, and so isn't the rest of the town. So working to prioritize how would you work through those, and just giving the board a little update on enterprise trash accounts, since none of us know what that's about or how it's even done. It has been really hard, so we have, for managing skills, it's only been less than 90 days, so it's really hard to assess someone. Majority members all felt she's meeting expectations. There was some where it wasn't meeting expectations, but needing to understand the abilities or kind of how all the departments work in the varying professional climates that you're kind of in. The next one we had was human, and you guys can stop me at any point, I'm kind of bucketing them. Human resource management, this is in there as like staff development, growth, recruitment. Noted in here, we all were meet expectations. She started and she had to hire a new director for our senior center, and kind of took over a van system that I didn't realize the town administrator was elected to do. She also had to work with like the different boards and figure out what decisions were on their plate, and different staff and employee, and to figure out what they had for staff or they didn't have. There was also some, I don't think she's had enough time to really have some formal department meetings. So in some of the goals prior, there were like formal one formal staff meeting. She hasn't been here long enough, and she had more stuff on her plate. She hasn't had a chance to be part of any collective bargaining agreements yet, because it's only been a few days. I would say it feels like a few days, so. Roughly 90 days. So those are really hard to assess. So, I mean, we filled it out to the best this board could do with a 90-day review. Relationship with, it says media and community. Everyone meets expectations. I'm assuming between the town administrator's office making posts on, Facebook, reaching out, attending like the financial meetings. We had 3 of them. That was in collaboration with FinCom, attending other board meetings. And then, she's just working on building deep and lasting relationships with the broader community. She used to joke saying we didn't let her leave the town hall. I think she's got a chance to leave a couple times at least and go places. Next one is goal setting and achievements. It's only been 90 days, so we haven't had our formal goal setting meeting where we do town administrator goals in collaboration with the town administrator and select board goals, and then assess each other at a meeting. So that hasn't happened, but we're going to set a date to do that now that we've passed the 90 days. On that one, 4 members had meets expectation. 1 member said it's really too new to rate. We haven't even had a meeting. I agree with all those. Next one is relationship with federal, state, and other government units. This one's really difficult too. 1 member said above expectations, 1 said too new to rate, and 3 said meets expectations. Some of the things that were here are around like Heather's had a chance to meet with Mr. O'Day and the Lieutenant Governor, and some of the other boards. She's had a chance to go, to the MMA, so the thought is she knows a lot of folks there as well. And then, just to keep those key relationships going with Mr. O'Day and Robin Kennedy, because that really helps our relationship and helps with maybe advancing any requests we have. Dealing with uncertainty and changing conditions. This one deals like unforeseen issues, problems in the community, confronts changes. In this one here, there was a lot of feedback around town meeting and also the override, as this was a really big challenge in the first 3 weeks of employment. She was very clear to communicate on there and was steady and determined during town meeting to participate with courage in discussions, and appreciated the interaction with board members as they felt Heather had a positive and solution-oriented attitude, which reflected a strong ability to manage stress and maintain focus under pressure. Responsiveness, and was able to adapt based on the uncertainty around town meeting, and also around if the override did not pass, what was going to happen. On this one, we had members, majority of the members put meets expectations. We did have some members that did less than this, being that it was a time crunch, and there were some difficult decisions made during that period of time that influenced a negative reaction for the public around DPW picking up trash, and also some moving of signs. Risk management, this encourages a high level of involvement from all town employees in understanding and reducing workplace accidents. Every member meets expectations. It's been 90 days. I don't think anyone has had an issue. So that is noted there. Number 10 is personal and professional growth of the town administrator. We all have meets expectations. We haven't even set anything, so I'm thinking you are now growing in your role moving forward. And the board encourages Heather to maintain an active presence in state and national networks, and keep regular share key learnings and updates that could benefit the town and its residents. As you are the primary point of contact for legal, procurement, policy guidelines, continued engagement with professional organizations, and ongoing education and is essential for your success, to inform complex policy. All right, overall, Heather meets our expectations. Out of the majority of the board, felt that Heather met her expectations overall, with one member feeling it met below expectations. And then kind of key achievements are outlined. And also just the board highly is excited to see what is going to happen next and had some recommendations for goals or the next period, but to establish consistent, transparent communication channels with all select board members, especially on major projects or developments, and continued actively pursuing grant opportunities to support infrastructure, operational needs, and town projects. So over the last 90 days, we're kind of short on that. Heather has been presented with unique challenges during that period, has come and initiated different areas where she has been effective in those areas and responsive in those areas. The board is very optimistic about her current growth and as she contributes to solidify herself in the leadership position and helps guide the town through more challenging times. Wow. All right, so I said a lot of words. Besides all the words that I just read, does anyone else have anything to say? Or did everyone fall asleep? Okay.
I do
Oh,
like to say something.
okay.
I think, she came in a tough time, so you did a good job. So I would say, for me, when I got the review, it was so hard for me to say, it's 90 days is very hard for me to say anything. So whatever I said in that review was like, I was not able to meet expectations or not meet expectations or anything. So I was able to make few comments. Maybe that's helpful for you to, maybe moving forward. That's all. But overall, my feeling is, you are doing a good job.
I think it is hard. I know we put the 90-day in. It's kind of hard when you're in a position like this. It's different when you're in like our corporate position, like that you're assessing because you have really set goals in this environment. I mean, they could change tomorrow, right? There could be something that happens tomorrow.
They will change tomorrow.
So I think this is, it seemed like enough time, but the reality is it was in the contract, we've done the assessment, and in 90 days, it was one very busy 90-day period of time.
Something that I always like to remind folks, and this isn't for you, Heather, you've had this a bunch of times, but for the community at hand, the fact that we have to do a public evaluation is really hard. So I consider any of these, any of the feedback, you take it with a plum, and, the community just realize that this is somebody's performance appraisal, and how many folks actually have this conversation out in public. 9 times out of 10, you're having that with your manager behind closed doors, so, it's a difficult process, and at any rate, I just want to make sure that folks realize that this is a human being that has had a performance evaluation in public, and everybody can hear it and read it, and so it's
It is not my first public evaluation.
For sure.
So, thank you for clarifying that, because it is a unique situation, but, no worries. I'm used to the fishbowl.
Glad you are. I'm 4 years and still not used to it, but I would say, okay, so any other discussion? I don't believe we have to vote on this. We just had to complete it to address the 90-day period of time. And the goal would be to set an actual schedule a meeting where we would do town administrator goals and select board goals during that meeting. These are goals that we can accomplish over 12 months. And just so you all know, the select board sometimes does not accomplish a lot of their goals because competing priorities come up, but those live and breathe on the town website once they're completed. And then we give updates on those in a public meeting later on, and that meeting's public as well. All right. Hearing nothing, I'm going to move on to appointments and resignations. And in the agenda packet I have, I'm going to go to, I want to make sure I have the right one.
We can skip right down to the Agricultural Commission.
Okay, I love that. So we're going to that commission. There's a 3-year appointment for one member for July 1st through June 30th, 2028. Listed in the agenda with, she's applied, she actually wants to be on it. Amy's good with this, and
It was a wonderful interview. I think she has a lot of great ideas for the Ag Commission and will be a very good member.
okay.
Supported entirely.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Okay, do I have a second? Any further discussion?
Just looking at her application, seems like she's a great fit for the role based on her passion of gardening, background in general, both sort of like a farm with plates background. Seems like what she brings a lot to, so great to have on the committee.
Thank you. I definitely have an old agenda because I don't have a link for her, so I'm like, I was kind of, but I think I also might have removed the link. All right. Is there one other, is it the local building inspector?
Yes,
Is that really one of them?
Yeah, Wanda.
Okay,
Yes,
so,
yeah.
so Wanda, you're
vote?
recommending
Did you
for,
vote?
it doesn't have dates on it, is there?
Did you vote on Amy?
No. I did motion, you said something for a discussion.
Second discussion.
Vanessa, sorry, I didn't do a roll call. Vanessa?
Yes.
Raj?
Yes, for me.
Yes.
I'm a yes?
Yes.
David, okay. All right. Wanda is on the agenda. Is the dates,
So he is a local building inspector, so it would be an appointment for a employment position.
okay. Are there certain dates that you want, that, it's not open
No,
usually,
it's-
right?
Be
Or it just
an
doesn't
open
matter?
It's a regular appointment.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
And I have the resume in front of us. 22 years experience, hands-on experience in construction industry, and current employment as a building inspector for the city of Worcester. Is what I have. Vanessa?
Yes.
Raj?
Yes.
Jay? I'm a yes?
Yes.
You're a yes. Is there any other on that list or no?
Nope, that's it.
Awesome. We are moving on to the town administrator report.
I regret that it is a little lengthy, but I will talk quickly. The Public Health Alliance, you recall that we have separated from the city of Worcester, and we are establishing an alliance with the town of Shrewsbury and the town of Grafton. I've been working with my colleagues in Shrewsbury and Grafton on the interview process to hire a new public health director to service the communities. We did complete those interviews yesterday afternoon, and we should have a candidate by the end of the week. I was so impressed with the pool of candidates. There were over 30, and they were from all over New England and actually beyond. So we certainly are attracting some good talent, and the individuals I met yesterday were all very impressive. There was a joint meeting for the boards of health in the 3 towns earlier in the month of June. Those individuals were invited to participate and are participating in the interviews for the public health nurse, as all the environmental and sanitation inspectors. So I was really pleased to see that our local boards of health members were being invited into that interview and hiring process. I think it really shows a true spirit of collaboration. Unfortunately, the inspector that we have been working with in West Boylston did not apply for the new position, so we have said our goodbyes to Devin Thornton. For those of you who have worked with Devin, you know that he served the residents with kindness, respect, and professionalism, and he'll be very much missed. We wish him all the best. We will continue the transition, and we have the interim agreements for the nursing, septic inspections, food establishment inspections, and the sanitation inspections. I have access to online drives and portals that allow me to monitor these to make sure that the inspections are getting done in real time. We do have to complete the full transition by October 18th. So that is a project that is ongoing and very actively engaged in. The select board in an earlier meeting had assigned myself and the public works staff to conduct an inventory of the public and municipal disabled parking spaces. We're moving forward with that to create the inventory and make sure that we're making the proper modifications to stay compliant. Another task from last meeting was the creation of the Pilot Equity Subcommittee. We have posted that on the website and asked for volunteer forms for the 2 at-large members. We have received several, so we will stay, once we feel we have a good candidate pool, we'll do some interviews and bring you recommendations. The senior center update, we've posted the 2 half-time non-benefited positions for outreach coordinator and the administrative assistant. The 2-week posting period is set to expire at the end of the week, and we'll begin interviews next week. Kim's been doing a fantastic job of keeping everything straight, but it is an awful lot of work for one person, so we're really anxious to get her some support. You referenced the senior van just a little bit ago. After 2 months of operating that service out of the town hall, we are so relieved and so glad that it has moved back to its home at the senior center. One of our drivers has stepped up to manage the coordination of that, so it doesn't all fall on Kim. And she'll be paid through the grant funds, so there's no budget hit for that extra work, but it is a really great opportunity. And the lunches, the now weekly lunches continue to grow in attendance and popularity. The Prescott Grill is the hottest reservation in town. If you haven't checked out the, as a town official, please, I encourage you to stop in and see what a great job that they're doing over there. On a sad note, our town clerk, Damian Bartek, has resigned from her position. She will leave us effective January, because it is a new year, right? It is a new year. July 11th. She's going to be the town clerk in Northborough. She's been with West Boylston for 4 years and has done a lot to improve and update the systems in the town clerk office. I'm very sad to see her go, but certainly wish her well. I've scheduled the exit interview in accordance with our policy, and we have reviewed job description, posted the position. In the interim, Damien's assistant, who is still relatively new but has really taken to the role very well, she'll be the interim town clerk until we can fill that position. The Square Shire Bridge project, I reached out to the engineering firm this afternoon because I drove the road this morning and saw the detour signs were still up. I know that it's an issue of contention for the residents. I'm glad I did, because the response was that despite Mass DOT's previous email and confirmation that they would not use Fairbanks as a detour and they would use 12 and 110 instead, apparently that decision has been reversed. But they did not notify the town of that decision. Again, fortunately or unfortunately, I reached out on another issue and they gave me that news. I have reached out to the residents to let them know that that is a circumstance. And then I've reached out to Mass DOT to find out why the reversal of decision. I mean, it just seems really, I don't know. If you developed a alternative detour that kept cars off this road at the residents' request and in the interest of public safety, and that was approved by Mass DOT, why they changed their mind, I just want to get that answer. I mean, there may not be anything that we can do about it, but I'd like to be able to satisfy that question.
Point of clarification, was that from the same individual that gave one answer and then reversed on the answer?
It is the same group of people. So, Public Works received an email from the engineers and the Mass DOT representative saying that due to the concerns of the residents, they have proposed a alternative detour, which was the 12 to 110. That was in writing, approved by the Mass DOT, I guess, in their engineering department.
Yes.
It was posted on the Sterling website as the new detour route. We were all moving forward with the idea that there was a alternative detour. The signs have remained up on either end of Fairbank, and the request has been ongoing. I email them once a week. When are you gonna take the signs down? When are you gonna take the signs down? I emailed them today and said, when are you gonna take the signs down? They said, we're not, because we're actually going to use that as the detour. We've changed our mind in our direction.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the point of my question was to make sure that we didn't have someone who was misguided or had missed an earlier memo, but you've outlined that it's the same group that responded. So,
The exact
yeah.
same,
Okay.
all of the same people involved in the first email were on the second.
Okay, thank you.
So ongoing, the anticipated start date is Monday, July 7th, so there is not a lot of time to make any other alternative plans. I have notified police and fire, so they're aware of the detour. It certainly impacts their ability to get from one point to the other.
Can I ask one question?
Of course.
I meant to drive down this road. Members of the public mentioned there was no speed limit signs on the whole street. Do you know if that's true?
It is, so there are two yellow speed limit signs,
Okay.
one on each end of the road, which are exactly where the detour signs are. So if you drive, there are speed limit signs.
Okay.
What their concern is that they're the yellow, old-fashioned signs, and they would like the newer white ones. Those are, we've ordered them.
Those yellow ones are precautionary signs
Yep.
for small roads.
Yeah,
That's why those are there, and those are small yellow ones.
yeah.
Okay.
So we've ordered the
Okay.
appropriate new sign. Whether we can have them in place by Monday, I, maybe. Solid maybe.
Yeah.
Solid maybe. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things where we are asked to enforce something, but Mass DOT does not.
it is a Mass DOT
Yeah, they
project.
don't
They do
do
have the
us.
final say in this. It's just disappointing that they thought to include Tom in their original, yes, we've heard you, yes, we're gonna do the right thing, but they did not include him in an email when they reversed that decision. It was only when we reached out.
They tended to deal with the engineer more than the town, our town. I heard that they were dealing with Sterling better, for whatever reason. We were left out in the mix.
Well,
It's usually the loudest people get the most attention, right?
The project is in the town of Sterling,
Yeah.
and I think that is why, I do have a good working relationship with the town administrator in the town of Sterling, and we've had a lot of discussions about this. Unfortunately, because it is a Mass DOT project and not a Town of Sterling project,
Yep.
even their input is limited. So, again,
Understand.
I will continue to stay on top of it and let you know as if I learn anything about the why. I mean, to me, that's the biggest thing.
Yep.
Going back to the senior center, I do have a note here that I neglected to mention, that the senior center rentals are increasing consistently. We are seeing more and more people in and out of that building, which I think was our goal at the beginning, and it is
Goal
effective.
2 years ago.
Yep.
I think this is great.
Point of clarification, increasing in quantity, not in per rental agreement. Is that,
Both. I mean,
Okay.
so we are signing more rental agreements than we did in the past, and as a result, there are more physical people that are using that building.
okay, yes, but not like we raise the rates, like as more people are going in, we're not
No,
raising the rate. Okay,
no,
thank you.
no.
That is very exciting.
It is very
Yeah,
exciting.
I mean, plug, because I didn't,
Yeah, and again, that's a collaborative effort, that
Yep.
isn't, that's, the senior center director, but also the council on aging, that board has been very supportive and making sure that they're getting the messaging out to the right groups, so.
So-
And my last item is just, I wanted to let you know, so that you're fully warned. The item did reach out, and I met with them for about 20 minutes earlier this week and gave them some reflections, all positive, of my first
but
couple
we
of
could have had
months.
them do this review then.
Right?
Why did they ask? I'm gonna email Jan and ask her
Right,
what
right?
happened here.
She didn't get back to you?
No, you know?
Anyhow, I did ask them to hold off for a couple of weeks so that I could say that I met my 90 days.
90
but-
days.
But who knows, if they get a slow news week, that might get bumped.
All right.
So, anyways, that's my report, unless anybody has any specific questions or concerns.
I do not. Vanessa, anyone else?
I think speaking of the senior centers, Kim is doing a fantastic job. And as you said, lot of new rentals. So for the town, if anyone need a rental, please call Kim. I know that, in the past, so the rental was not entertained that eagerly. But now Kim is there, and we have the card, swipe card and whatnot. So, and also, I would like to say this, there is going to be a wedding in that senior center. We never had one.
I am.
There's a wedding, you said?
Yep.
Oh, wow. I'm nodding along like I know this. I have not.
All
I
right,
was
well,
voted for a wedding.
it is a really great area,
It's a beautiful
and it's got that back area, but, all right.
I'd like a satellite office there, in fact.
You're just trying to get away from this area. It's fine. I understand. All right, next item. You work quick by your administrator. I just want to give you some feedback. That wasn't quick. Got a 47, no, I'm kidding. All right, meeting invitations or announcements? None. Future agenda items or select board reports?
I do have a couple of them.
Okay.
So one is, as we all know, the town was divided because of the flag issue and the political, what can be allowed in the town buildings, what cannot be allowed in the town building. I would like to have either policy or bylaw, whatever it is. So we do need to work on that. And also, since our DPW director is here, we do need to revisit. This is one of the town residents' request. So from Worcester Street to Maple Street, Pierce Street is one of the road, is a cut-through road.
Yeah, they cut through up the hill.
Lot of 18-wheelers are going. I don't know what we can do. Is there anything we can do? So that's all one of the things, we may have to revisit if there is something can be done.
Yeah, this business is back there. That hill, when you come in off of 12.
It's been talked about many
Future
times.
agenda item,
Yeah.
not to stop you, but let's,
And also, one other thing is, I think, the Board of Health may have some draft on the chicken bylaw. So we may have to revisit that. So in the past town meetings,
I'm still in my 90 days. You
I-
start talking about a chicken
No,
bylaw.
we may have to revisit that, because, there are so
It's
many calls.
regulations around,
There are so many calls on the
Bylaws.
roosters.
Okay.
okay.
These are all future agenda items.
All right, anything else on future agenda items? I only had one, but I'm not gonna ask for it anytime soon, and that one is I would love to have the senior center director come and talk about all the great things she's doing. But I know she's doing all the things right now, so no pressure, but that would be awesome to see. And I'd love to see I'm asked a lot about the rental agreement and how much we charge and everything else. If that's on the website somewhere, that would be awesome. And then, is there any select board reports? Hearing none.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second? Vanessa?
Yes?
Raj?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
I'm a yes, David? Okay, we're done. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.